Good morning everybody. Today we're talking about line graphs. We're talking about what they are and how to draw them, because today you're going to draw me a line graph. I'm going to give you the information, or the mathematical word for that would be data, and you're going to take that and you're going to plot it on a graph of your own. So the first thing any line graph needs is a title. And the title for this one is how far a family cycled over an hour. I need to label both the axes. These are the lines down the sides. So this one shows the distance in meters that the family cycled, and the one across the bottom shows the time in minutes. The benefit of a line graph is, for instance, if I wanted to know how many meters the family cycled in 20 minutes, I would look at 20 at the bottom, I would go straight up to where the dot is, and then I would read across to find what the distance is in meters and how far they travelled in those 20 minutes. The benefit of this over a bar chart or something like that is that I could go to 25 minutes. I could go halfway between 20 and 30, and then I could read up to the line and then across to find out roughly how far they'd cycled in 25 minutes if I wanted to. Notice that all the lines on this graph are drawn with a ruler, so you must make sure that you draw the lines with a ruler. And notice as well that the scales along the bottom and up the side are all even. Now at the bottom it starts at 0 and goes up in tens for minutes, and at the side it starts at 0 and it goes up in 500ths for the distance in meters. So why do you need to know about line graphs? Well, in the SATs you might be asked a question on them, and they might give you a line graph like this and then say something along the lines of how far had the family cycled after 30 minutes. So if I look at the bottom axis, I read across to where it says 30 and then look upwards along the line to the dot and then look sideways to the other axis, I can see that after 30 minutes the family had roughly cycled about 1,500 meters. This one's a harder one. After how long did they reach 2,000 meters? So if I look at 2,000 and I read it across, this time it's not going to hit a dot, it's going to hit the line, but it doesn't matter because where it hits the line, I would then read down to the time at the bottom. Now I can see it's about halfway between 40 and 50, so I'm going to go with 45. And you can see it's just behind my head there, 45 minutes is the answer. So it works both ways. I can look up along the bottom, I can look up along the side, as long as I then use a ruler or look straight across to the line and then look straight down or look straight up and then across. Must be in a straight line though. Here's some more questions. Estimate how far the family had cycled after 25 minutes. Now this time the line graph has changed ever so slightly. If I have a look, halfway between 20 and 30 would be 25, so I'd have to get the exact halfway point. That's not on a line, it's halfway between the two lines. So I'd have to look up halfway between 20 and 30, look up to the line and then look across, and I can see it's roughly halfway between 1,000 and 1,500. That would be 1,250. One rider had to stop to change a tyre. When was this? Well, sometimes they'll ask you questions like this where you've got to look and you've got to sort of interpret the data. You can see there's a point there where there's no meters being made, there's no distance being travelled. There's a point where he stops. So when did he stop to change a tyre? Well, he stops moving forwards at 30 minutes. If you look at the 30 mark and move up to the point where there's a flat line, that's where he stopped for 10 minutes to change a tyre. So that's between 30 and 40 minutes. Now this is a different type of question. When did the family cycle most slowly? It asks you to look at the data and think, well, when is it it's increasing the least? So I'm looking for the line that's the least steep, which would indicate they're not going forward as fast. Now if I have a look at that, I can see between 50 and 60. That probably makes sense because after 50 minutes they're probably getting a bit tired. But also I can see between 0 and 10 that the line's kind of shallow there as well. It's not as steep there either. Between 0 and 10 minutes and 50 and 60 minutes. There's no way you can really tell them this. You've just got to get a feel for the question and just have a look at it and see if you can see where the question can be answered on a question like this. How do you know? You can see the line is less steep, meaning they travel less distance. So you need to know that by looking at the line graph. So what am I going to ask you to do today? You are given some information, and what I want you to do is try to plot that on a line graph. Don't forget the things I've talked about. Don't forget using a ruler. Don't forget that your scale needs to be even. That means going up by the same value each time. We talked about how on the y-axis, distance in meters, it goes up 500, 1,000, 1,500. It's going up in 500s every time. That can't ever change. It goes up in 500s. It has to keep going up in an even scale. Same with time in minutes. It's going up 10 minutes each time. Think about how you plot it on your paper. Now, you could very easily do this on a blank piece of paper. You could also do it on a square piece of paper, or if you want to draw or print squares, you could do that as well. That's up to you. There's lots of ways you could do this on a blank piece of paper though. On a blank piece of paper, you would need to measure using your rulers. Otherwise, there's no way that your scale will be even all the way across. You need to measure to make sure every gap, every 10-minute gap, or whatever you're measuring, gap, would be the same distance either across or up. Otherwise, your line graph will look wrong and your curve could go completely wrong. The curve is just a name for the line that I'm showing across it. You'd also need to make sure that you label your axis, and you'd also need to make sure that you do a title as well across the top, which should tell me what the line graph is about. Okay, good luck.